Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and today it's time for another episode of Starmade. You might be able to hear it in my voice a little bit. I'm actually pretty sick, so I hope you can excuse me if I don't sound overly enthusiastic all the time. However, I don't want to drown myself in pity. It is time to actually do something on the mothership. In the previous episodes we have established a bunch of concepts using the new railing system, and I actually went ahead and already applied one of the systems. And in today's episode I have planned something for the bottom of the mothership. I want to try out something related to the spinning blocks, and it ought to be like an automatic 360 defense system. We shall see if it actually works out. However, let me just quickly show you what I've done right here. If you remember, I did have a whole lot of activation modules and delay signals down below in order to make this effect right here going on. And since it is so much more convenient using the railing system, I made myself a little clock, as you can see right here, which is actually dictating the showing and not showing of the doors. So I haven't done anything at the bottom, but on the top I have tried a different pattern using 3 blocks at the time. And I think what I will actually end up doing is just switch it around so that by default everything that is lava right now will be doors and vice versa. So we will actually not see the doors going along this path, but we will see the lava revealing itself along this path, and I think this will give us a nicer effect. But yeah, just so that you know that I have replaced our clock system using a railing system, and we were able to make a much faster clock actually, but there's still a lot of graphical issues which I will have to defeat by rearranging the patterns. However, as I said, this is not gonna be today's topic. Today's topic we shall dedicate to something down below. So let me just prepare a bunch of things and I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. So I estimated this is about the center of our bottom part of the ship, which right now is pretty ugly and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but in our case it is actually really practical that it is a flat surface. You will see why, at least at the end of this episode. However, it is time to make a nice little clock. And I think I'm gonna have the clock somewhat right here. All we need to do is have some basic rails. We're gonna place one into the upper direction and another one in the opposite. So once we actually dock this unit right here, it will be going back and forth all the time. We can actually already test this by simply hopping out of this build block, and we're gonna attach ourselves to this railing system. There we go. Okay, now you can see we're just going back and forth, which obviously means we can use our activation modules in order to make a fast clock using 2 modules basically. But I want to make this even faster, so we're gonna go with a speed controller. We're gonna place that right here, and of course we're gonna hook up both of the rails. But what we also need is another activation module hooked up to the speed controller. Let's hook this up. Oh, I think I've just done it the wrong way around. We need to hook up the speed controller to the activation module, and you can see now we have a really rapid clock. It is at least faster than anything we've had before. And whenever I want to stop the clock, I only have to deactivate this signal right here. So this signal is going to be very important, like our initiation signal and stopping signal. Okay, now it is time to actually set up our spinning blocks, and I have received a really good suggestion in order to go a little bit smaller than what I've shown in the concepts video an episode ago. We want to go with a rail rotation. We can have this in any way, shape or form we want. And now we want to create ourselves a new vessel, hop inside of that. We want to attach another docking unit to our core and simply dock this right here. You know the drill. There we go. And now we are turning around. So in order to make this even more functional, I believe it was a button. Yeah, there we go. We are gonna place this right here, and we're gonna hook up the button to our rail system right here. So if we use that button once, then you can see we basically have a spinning block, though I just see that there is a slight delay. So it is not really a constant rotation, there is a minimal delay. Maybe we can ignore that, I'm not yet sure. But yeah, that's basically what we wanted to achieve. So let's go ahead and we're gonna place another button on top of this together with another one of these rotational blocks. And of course right now we need an additional ship. And we're just gonna rinse and repeat that until we have the spinningness, the fastness that we want. Okay, there we go. This is the second stage. So what I'm basically hoping for is that I can place a wireless module next to those guys, and by hooking them up I can basically control the wireless module. And oh, that doesn't look good. Is it really sending off a signal constantly? We have to test this. We're gonna test this with our defense mechanisms, of course. So we're gonna place one wireless logic module right here, and now we have to hook this one up to this guy. And oh no, you can see it is not really working the way I wanted it to. Yeah, this is not gonna be fast enough, and it's just picking up one signal. So maybe we have to install the clock at the layer that we needed. So for instance, if I went 3 more ships or so that we turn around even more, then I have to install the clock on top of the last ship, so that we really can have 2 impulses as we have right here. Anyways guys, you know a little bit what I want to go for, so let me get this baby to the next stage and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, I think I figured out a nifty system which will allow me to actually enable and disable the feature. Let me just show you what I mean by that. What we can do is activate this switch right here, which I couldn't do because I was in the vessel. This here is the activation switch, and both of my modules, as you can see, will start turning, and right here I can switch the contraption off and everything will come to a halt, as you can see. The way I've done that I will probably show you just by doing another step. So we are basically just gonna rinse and repeat the pattern I've made down below. We start with our ship core, of course with a docking unit, and I have one hull block on the top. This gives me the ability to put down one of these rotational modules, and I'm gonna have the opposite module right here. So one is pointing into this direction, another one into this direction. I also want to have the same ability with my rails, so we're gonna place one into this direction, just like the rotational block, and the other one right here into this direction. On the top of here I want to have a button, and now comes our actual docking unit. It doesn't really matter in which direction we have it turned right now, because we're gonna steer it with those blocks anyways. And right here we also want a basic rail, just like that. Now we're gonna have a bunch more buttons right here. This button is gonna activate both of these buttons, and since these buttons are next to our rail systems, we can just designate this button to change this rail and this button to change this rail. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So now you can see those two guys. If I press this button, they will turn into those two rails, and if I switch this button, they will do the opposite. The reason I'm doing this is because sometimes if a ship core gets stuck on a rotational module, it will not be able to start rotating again until it gets another activation signal. The system with the button is actually really efficient, so if I hook up this button right here, it will turn around constantly. I don't have to use an immense amount of activation modules in order to make this happen. But the problem is that sometimes it gets stuck and you will not be able to reactivate it again. So I decided to have an on and off switch is much better, and while on the off stage we want the whole contraption to get onto this rail, so that once we reactivate it I will ensure that the rotation is going to happen because it is coming inside of this rotational block, and that will ensure that it starts rotating. Okay, so now that we have hooked up everything, it's time to install the wireless modules so that we can actually reach it from down below, and we want to hook things up with each other. So first of all, this activation module or button should enable another wireless module. This wireless module we are gonna hook up to the one that will enable the rotation. Okay, so now that we have set this up, it's time to actually dock one of our ships. And of course we want to dock it on top of this guy, and there we go, we are spinning around. Let's actually put this to a test. If I press this button, then it should, switch the rails and it will be stuck on top of this rail. And if I activate this button right here, then it will go again and spin around. Woohoo! Okay, now that we know that this is working, we're gonna take care of the activation switch. So if you remember, this guy right here is activating the spinning cycle. So we're gonna have our wireless module right here, and we want to hook this up to our last wireless module, which will activate the rotation. Hook it up with this wireless module. There we go. Make sure the wireless module is actually hooked up to the button. And we also want to do the opposite, which means this this button right here should activate another wireless module, which should be connected to the off switch. And the off switch is this one right here, so let's hook this up and make sure the wireless module is connected. Okay, now just because we are very thorough, let's put this to a test. Everything should start spinning around and we have a very fast spin on the top. That is good. And this button right here should deactivate everything. Oh yes, beautifully. Okay, so that is actually working. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build one more stage and then we're gonna do something on the top. I think I mentioned it in the beginning of this episode. I want to have some kind of an automatic defense system so that once we activate it, then we have this very fast spinning around thing which will be shooting rapid fire cannons automatically using a clock which we're gonna put on the topmost module. However, let me just get to that stage a little bit more quickly and then I'll be right back. Alright guys, I've been working on the project for just a tiny little bit and this is the first result that we have. Of course, this is still work in progress, but it is actually really interesting in how it works. This looks a little bit chaotic because I had to try a few things out. Unfortunately, I did have to realize that I do seem to only be able to shoot into one direction, namely to the front of the ship. And of course this is not very much what I would like. I have my little clock right here. The way I can activate it is by pressing a button which is supposed to be somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Here we have the button. So if I activate this thing, then my clock will just be moving around and you can see it will activate each of these activation modules, which will be alternating these two guys and activating those two. You can see that whenever we activate it, there is a slight blink. I'm not even sure if I can see it myself. However, this will make my cannons shoot. So for instance, if we have a look over there, you can see my cannon is shooting, and now even though I have it properly arranged, it is pointing towards the side I'm facing now, it is shooting sideways and I'm not sure how to actually prevent this from happening. It should be firing right here. So maybe you guys have an idea how I can control this a little bit better. I tried to go with individual computers. Yeah, I just tried a few things. Unfortunately, this one right here is the only one that is shooting straight, and that is because this is like the back or front of the ship. So yeah, that is a little issue. However, the way we activate this whole contraption is not by doing that. We have to deactivate this guy again. The actual activation switch is down below here. And I made it so that it only requires one single module, namely this guy right here. If I activate this, the whole contraption will start spinning. As you can see, holy cow, yep, it definitely starts spinning, and if I deactivate it again, then it will stop. So that is pretty cool. The way I've done that is of course with a NOT signal connected to the deactivation switch. Also, you can see here we have a bunch of new modules, namely those are the rail mass enhancers, and you will require them if you build large objects on top of the rails. They will be slower and slower. There's like a certain amount of blocks you can place down without penalty, but after a while it will just be slowed down, and this is why we need those mass enhancers. I placed a whole bunch on each of the modules, and this will make the contraption spin very quickly. Anyways, let's hop into this build block and we shall activate the contraption right now. So yeah, before I forget, if I activate this, of course the wireless module will make sure that my clock on the top runs, and therefore the weapons will shoot. So it will turn around and shoot. So let's do that. Activate this module and the contraption is spinning like a crazy mofo. Holy cow, look at that. That is just incredible. Unfortunately, I cannot really see the weapons shooting. Is the clock running? That is the question. Let's actually have a look at that. It's kind of hard to tell, so let's rearrange ourselves, and oh no, the clock is not running. Maybe I haven't hooked up the wireless module just yet. I'm not sure. This wireless module should of course be running, and now our clock is also running. That is good. So let's get down again, and we want to make sure that this wireless module is of course hooked up to the top one. Can you sometimes see the shots? Yeah, they're going left and right like a little bit crazily. So now of course the next step would be to take this concept even further and add a whole more arms. Not just 4 arms which are gonna shoot 4 bullets, but like 100 arms with 100 bullets into each direction, and then it will be worth being part of the mothership. You have to prove your worth. However, I think I'm getting a little bit sick right now. But there we go, guys. I think the first step of this contraption is done. I can shut it off and turn it on whenever I want to. It will automatically shoot. I'm not even sure if you will be able to see that on YouTube, but every now and then there's a bullet shooting out in each direction. And now just imagine if we have like 100 cannons and it will shoot 100 bullets at a time, or 100 lasers rather. That will be cool. Anyways, guys, another thing that I want to do with this contraption is to kind of make it into a whole circle and have it shape the bottom of the mothership a little bit more. So we will not be able to see any of this flat surface. It will be like a vent surrounded with a circle of blocks and a little bit inset into the mothership, and then we can somehow smoothly connect everything so that the bottom part of the mothership will not look as flat anymore. However, this has been the time that I had. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Have a great time, and hopefully I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye bye.